Hey witchlings, welcome back to Hex and Chill. This is your hosts, Shay, Kay, and Lou. And today we're switching it up again on you. We're doing another review. This time it's a movie and it's called Heretic with the lovely Hugh Grant.
If I accidentally say Hereditary, I am talking about this movie. I cannot get those ones right. So sorry.
Heretic, not Hereditary.
Which is
Heretic.
also a terrifying movie and scarred me for life. But this is a different one that might also scar me from life. So, we'll see. We don't know yet.
I have actually watched this and Lou and Kay have not. So I get to kind of see their raw reactions. But we just finished watching the first 20 minutes of Heretic, and we're just going to talk a little bit about what's happened so far, how we're feeling about the development of the story, and then also cinematography.
So this review is going to be different than our other reviews because instead of watching the whole movie and then reviewing it later, we're going to consume this piece by piece and then talk about each 20-minute segment we watch live and then compile it together for you guys to listen to. So start off, Shay, want to tell us what Hereditary has shown us so far?
Heretic.
Dang it, guys. Dang it, the first time.
In the movie so far, we are introduced to two different characters. We've got Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton.
They've said it like once, so it's a little...
Yeah, Sister Paxton.
I don't know yet.
And they are sitting on a park bench with their bikes behind them, and they are just talking. And they happen to be talking about something a little spicy, erotic, and that is cornography.
Dun, dun, dun.
And we find out that these two sisters, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, are actually members of the Church of Latter-day Saints and are Jehovah's Witness. They are trying to ride their bikes around and tell people about
their Lord
Savior, Jesus Christ.
And what I love so far is that they made it very clear who these girls were in this one conversation and how they dress. It's very visually and storytelling. They're already killing it. And it's going to be one of those movies because they're telling you so much with everything, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're feeling. And so you start off in these girls, one's in black and she's a little bit more of that rebel-y looking kind of,
right.
What I mean?
She looks like a rebel. However, when she's like talking about things,
not.
She feels very conservative.
She seems almost like she's a little bit more progressive, like thinks more for herself than most women in the church.
Yes. She just feels like she knows more about what she's talking about and she's more knowledgeable.
Well, and then the other girl, she's in pink. She's like one of those girls that's like, I just want to do my best. And like, she's the one that like stays up till midnight memorizing. While Sister Barnes more like, well, I just got it. And I've actually converted 9 people. And she's like, what? 9 people? Like, she's like, oh my gosh, like I'm the perfect person I'm supposed to be converting. And so they set that line up very well. Like we were like Elphaba and Glinda, like that very polarizing pink and black.
Absolutely.
Separate side of the coin.
Yep. I love seeing that juxtaposition.
Sister Paxton is practicing her lines, her speeches.
As it's pouring down for their house that they're about to enter.
Yes.
So it's pouring rain. She's practicing her speech. And it's this really intense
It's a very
moment.
Yes, the shot of the door is crazy.
Like I'm intimidated by that door handle so hard right now. Like, it's just so scary.
Yes, and the crazy thing is that it's all important.
Yeah, Lou literally was like, "Guys, I'm scared of that door," and it was really funny because I was like, "I feel exactly the same."
It just feels ominous.
And Shay's over in the corner going, "Mwahaha."
Just you wait.
Just you wait. I love it.
Literally. Hugh Grant's character opens the door and we find out that his name is Mr. Reed and he is very kind.
Talk about a director's choice choosing Hugh Grant, who is like the British, like, I don't know, he's like the perfect boy, perfect man in all these films. So like you open the door, you see Hugh Grant, and you're like, I trust you with my whole soul.
Literally.
Like, you are the perfect person. Like, it's so funny that it's a great choice.
It's doing the same thing
like,
with
and I
Blink
love
Twice,
that,
right?
I love that Hugh Grant was like, oh, absolutely.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I'm going to take this up and he's going to kill it. Because it was an opportunity to do something totally different and own it so hardcore. Like, I'm so excited for this.
Yes. Okay, so he answers the door, and the reason the girls are there is because they got his name and address for something to
he
tell
had
him.
already
got in the
mentioned
book.
that he wanted more information.
Yes.
So they're following up.
So they're following up. So they're not. It's not just a random door that they're knocking on of a random person.
Oh yeah, that's important.
It is very. They're going there because he reached out.
He reached
first.
out. Yes, exactly.
And he's looking at the weather, and he's like, "You guys should come inside." And
They're like, we can't without a woman present. He's like, oh, my wife's inside.
exactly.
My
Do you have a girl
Oh,
roommate?
she's like, oh, my roommate. Oh, not my roommate, my soulmate. You're like, oh, soulmate. You know, like
Oh,
it's
he
cute.
loves it.
And
So
then they
he-
go in.
Yep.
And they sit down, and she doesn't appear.
Okay. So they sit down, but before they sit down, he says, "Just so you guys know, there's metal in the walls." And it just is very brief. And I looked over at Shay. I said, "Why is that significant?" And she said,
Just you wait.
Which is weird because I thought it was
Just
maybe
you
like a Mormon belief, like that metal,
Or
like,
like-
they can't be in a house with metal or something like
or
that.
there's like
if you-
lead in the paint
yeah,
or
if
something.
you don't know, like
That's a clever moment there because
Is it?
most people don't know that much about many religions. And so it makes sense that you wouldn't know if that's something that
right
Mormons
for me,
believe
I'm like,
or
I'm
not.
pretty sure that's something they believe, but I'm not sure. So it's like one of those things. You're like, exactly, like I don't know much about the Mormon Church, but maybe that's something they like, and so you kind of like write it off.
Yep, exactly.
Ooh,
Okay, and then my brain
smart.
my brain went to, oh, there's lead on the walls. Maybe
Like
he's
lead
concerned.
paint.
Maybe he's concerned that they're going to lick the wall.
Oh, okay.
Please don't lick my walls. They've got lead. Okay. Anyway, so then
He invites them in and he tells them that his wife is making blueberry pie or making
Yes,
pie.
and then he kind of it starts getting more awkward and awkward because he starts like he accidentally
tension is
he
building.
mispronounced a word and then it was awkward and
Then once they get inside, they look around at the decor too. They see like home sweet home.
yeah,
on
it
the,
feels very homely. He's very
Yeah,
trusting.
yeah.
And then he like, can I ask you a question? And they're like, well, yeah, we'll answer if we give us a question and then we'll answer if we feel comfortable. And he like slides on these glasses that give very Jeffrey Dahmer vibes. And immediately I was like, that's not a good person. It gave you that villain vibe
It's that shift.
immediately. And you're like, I am uncomfortable now. And these
He had
girls,
to cover
these
Hugh
girls
Grant.
need to get out of this house like right now.
yeah.
And the music tone and the camera angles, they tilt it a little bit, like and zoom on. I mean, it's very, very smart cinematically.
And the question is, how do you feel about polygamy or something about
Yes.
polygamy?
How do you
Yeah.
multiple wives? Because he's like, because I believe, and he flips their religion on their head and is like, because I believe that, what's his name? Who started it? Joseph.
Gordon Levitt.
Joseph Gordon
Guys,
Levitt
we should
created
know who he
Mormonism. Joseph Smith?
Yeah, Joseph Smith. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure.
Study
Okay,
this.
yes, Joseph Smith.
Okay. He takes their whole religion in this moment and like flips it on his head because he says that Joseph Smith only created Mormonism so he could have multiple wives and made it about how it was just a man who wanted to have more sex. And so he made up a religion so that women would follow him and fall into this trap and make him a saint, make him like women do, like, oh, I have to be with this man because he's a prophet, right?
Right.
Like women do that.
You feel the tension and you see the girls are very uncomfortable. And also, important note, prior to this, he had asked if they grew up in the church or if they've been doing this for whatever. And the girl in the pink, Sister Paxton, saying she was born and raised in it, one of 8 girls, and very bubbly, talking about it, everything. And then Sister Barnes is a convert. So when her dad passed away, her mom converted to Mormonism. They auditioned a couple churches, converted to Mormonism, so she's a convert. And then he later brings up, well, can we go back to how did your dad pass away? And it's Lou Gehrig's disease, but he mishears it and Lou Berry's disease and is making a joke. And
That's the first one of really awkwardness.
yes, it's so awkward. And Sister Paxton says Lou Gehrig's disease, like,
It's a disease.
bro,
yeah.
this is like, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then he keeps apologizing and making it more about him to where she's at one point, it's fine, it's okay. And
Yeah.
then we go back. So then he asks this polygamy question. And we think, I thought Sister Paxton is going to answer because she grew up in the church.
Right.
But instead, we get Sister Barnes giving the answer and saying, no, it was used when we were trying to build our community. And It wasn't about just having more wives, and gave the correct quote unquote answer.
Which is a great example too of like any person who's been a part of religion, either if you were born or if you were converted, every religion has those two norms. Like you have the friend that's like a super Christian because they were like bad all their life. And then when they become Christian, they're like radical. And then you have the radical ones at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Kate, it's us.
I know. I was born in the church and I was like, meh. And then
I was not born.
was
You
not
were
born
born in a church?
I was born straight in a church. And Lou was like converted and she was like the perfect person in college.
I was not.
You tried.
I tried.
You gave that, you're like, that like, I'm like, I love Jesus. You gave that soft Christian
You
vibe.
guys,
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know.
Like you were the hippie Christian.
Guys would message me on Facebook
Yeah, they
and we
would.
were talking, and then I would feel uncomfortable, and because they would open up about shit, and then I'd be like, well, I'll pray for you about that.
Oh my gosh, when you were like on dating apps, when you wanted to get someone away, you started that you pray for them. That is amazing, Lou.
Pray for you.
I love that so much.
But okay, I wasn't trying to get them away. I was genuine.
Oh,
I was no, see, that's
Not
what
as
makes
cool.
it makes it worse. I was being genuine of wanting to pray for. And
oh, this is like before, like now.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
past.
Now-
now that would be so funny.
no, now if I see a Christian on their profile, no, which I'm not actively on dating apps because
You know what's
I'm
funny,
in a very
though?
happy relationship.
If it was a Christian, I swiped no. Now it's like, well, his name is Christian.
But he doesn't say he was a Christian.
Right.
Okay, back
cool.
to
All right, and that
reality.
is where we are right now. Very uncomfortable moment, and that's it.
We're going to watch the next 20 minutes and we'll get back with you soon.
All right, so we just watched a bunch of the movie, and then we're going to talk about it. A lot has happened, but not a lot has happened. You know what I mean? Like they've entered into another room, and that's it.
Yeah. They
Right?
got their coats. They're like ready to leave.
Okay,
And
but we so
right before
they-
all of that happened, there was
they're
this
starting to feel
moment.
uncomfortable. She turns the candle. So he comes in with drinks, 2 glasses of water, a candle, and a mug. And I was like, there's only 3 glasses. Because if his wife were really joining
Right.
them, there would be a 4th one. And there's a candle that he brings, and he sets everything on the table. And they are feeling uncomfortable. And they say, where is your wife?
Well, and earlier she was like, "Oh, can you smell what kind of pie is she baking?" And the girl takes a deep breath, and she's like, "Blueberry pie." Obviously, because the candle is blueberry pie.
Yes.
So it's this moment where the girl realizes he only said blueberry pie because there's a blueberry pie candle here. He doesn't have a wife. That's what she thought.
Yep.
And then they try to open the door and it won't open. And they're like, well, I guess we're going to go and they're terrified at this point.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I guess we're going to go have to find him and ask him to open the door. And you can feel the tension and the terror. And they're like, that moment when like you as like a female are like, this is happening to me.
Why do we keep watching and reviewing things where it's women in these horrifying situations
they had
where they
these-
literally can't do anything?
When they like were collaborating with each other on how to get out without even talking to each other, that was like such a powerful moment as women. Like we know when would play those cards. Like, oh, well, I texted him. And he really needs us back. And then
Right.
the girl goes, oh yeah, we need to, like she immediately didn't have to question the lie. She just joined in.
Right.
Because they both felt threatened.
So speaking of lies,
Yes.
this is where we get to this point where Lou said, what does it mean? What does it matter if there's metal in the walls? Isn't that a belief system that Mormons have? No, there's metal in the walls to prevent them from having any cell service.
Yeah.
So they tell Mr. Reed that we got to go. They're needing us back.
They got a phone call.
Yeah, they got a phone call. And he is like, why would you feel the need to lie? I've given you every opportunity to leave on your own, but you still found this point where you lied
Right.
to me.
And then the girls were like, well, we would really like to leave. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. My front door has an automatic lock. And once it locks on the timer, I can't unlock it. So you're going to have to go to the back of my house. And so you're like, excuse me. The girls are like, no, we don't want to do that. Unlock the door. And they're like, I'm sorry.
And it's so interesting because he says multiple times, I haven't done anything. And we're watching
free
it
to leave,
with
yeah.
Kara's husband, and he's like, he he hasn't done anything. He's still being very charming, very disarming, like with what he's saying.
Yep.
But the tension, and
Something's
something is
wrong.
wrong.
Well, and he's playing this character that's almost like sorry, this is gonna happen to you. Like very joyful. He's good, like whatever is about to happen, like he's totally okay with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just like an experiment almost. It is.
And it's
like a religious experiment. And he's like, sorry, this is gonna happen, but it's gonna be interesting.
and
I'm
this
excited.
is okay.
Right?
It's reminding me of gaslighting too, like, but not in the It's
But
still
I'm a good
manipulative.
guy. Why did you have a bad
Right.
vibe with me?
Right.
Or like that guy, oh, he's such a good guy. He would never do that to you.
Those kinds of vibes, and yeah,
Yes. But so the girls are like freaked out. He says, there's a door here, there's a door here. That one leads outside. This one leads to my wife. But you truly don't believe I have a wife here, do you? By now, right? Yeah. And so the girl goes to the door, the more brave one, the Sister Barnes, and opens the door. And we as the audience do not see it, what's in that room. But she like cries a single tear and closes the door. Now, my belief is it's something really morbid behind the door that shows her that she's like they're in deep trouble because the blonde like doesn't go up and
right. She doesn't see what's in the first door.
Right
so the green door
and the
one
girl
purple
sees
door.
it, but the blonde doesn't see it, and she shuts it so we don't know as an audience. The second door she walks over to opens and it leads into a basement, and he's like, you must have seen my house is on a hill, so to get out of the back you have to go down the stairs. And it's really uncomfortable. The girls know they're in trouble.
So you said your guess, you think something really morbid is behind the door.
Or a brick wall like that.
Brick wall. Okay. What do you think it is?
Oh, I thought it was just the same going, like another stairs going
same
downstairs.
Set stairs. That's a super cool idea.
Well, because like if you open the first door and you see it goes downstairs, I'm going to want to go check the next door and see, is it the same
there
thing?
a piece of land over here?
Exactly. You know?
Yeah, I just thought of that feeling. The only reason that I don't think that's true is because she like had a tear, unless that she thought that was the way to get out, and it's just
Right.
in that realization that it's stairs, or it's something that's like because she seems like the one that would take on the burden of something scary, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Either one makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to see what or we're not above something that we have not mentioned.
Well, you talk about that specifically, that she cries the first time. It kind of is taking me back to where he starts to essentially compare iterations of things. And in one of those, I mean, at the main core of it all is that he's comparing religions. But I'm saying this because I want to just quickly hit that maybe when she opened the door, she thought this was the only option. And this is the first one. So that's why she got emotional. But then I think about her being the convert and how she had made a choice to join Mormonism. I think that's the only reason she checked the second door, because I think this is a little bit of a symbolic moment that people who often are either born into a religion or are just looking at something, they usually go with their first choice, right?
But sometimes
or
you go
they
with
stay
second
with that.
one.
Right.
Well, for us, I mean, like this is the journey of the unconverting and talking about Wicca, right? Or witch being a witch. It's that second door, right? We were all in the first door,
Yeah.
right? And so we're like in that moment of like, oh, it's the second door, you know?
Right.
The second door seems like I might kill these girls, but
Right.
we'll see.
I wanted to say as well, like bouncing off that, they get their coats, they check their coat pockets, and Sister Barnes' bike lock key is gone, but Sister Paxton's is there. And I remember when they were in the front room, he was almost grilling Sister Barnes a little more heavy because she was a convert.
Yeah.
And I also find myself feeling like with my trauma in the church, I sometimes struggle with that because I chose that for myself. And like with you, Kay, yes, it's still an option, but if you're growing up in it and your family, that's all you know because that's what your family is into. And so you don't really have a choice. But if you're a convert, you do have that choice.
Well, it's like that feeling when you're like, you look at someone, you're like, well, you believe Christianity is the only way because that's all you've ever known. But you don't think someone who grew up Muslim has the same conviction and belief.
Exactly.
The whole life they've had that religion. No way they think, well, maybe the Christian God's the right one. Just like you don't think that. It's a heretic to do that, right? To like think other religions are okay and yours is not.
Yeah.
A heretic, right? Title, cut. Hereditary. I'm just kidding. I know. That was purposeful. I know it's Heretic.
Oh my
Now
God,
I'm going to
you're
remember
the best.
Heretic because the title makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, and back to the bite key. Sorry, I want to say I think it's foreshadowing, and
Foreshadowing of what exactly?
I think he thinks that I don't know. I feel that he
found
is
the-
going to be harder on Sister Barnes because she had the choice and she doesn't have the bite keys, so maybe she's not going to be able to leave.
I think he's also found his perfect candidates for whatever this is. Whatever game this is, he has someone who grew up in the church and one that has not. And then they're setting up for these different options. So I bet the girls get separated and it's going to be this test of like who survives. So
Yeah.
like one has a different thing. So she has the bike lock. So what does that mean? Kind of, because I don't think they're going to be together the whole thing.
Yeah.
So no, that's a really cool point.
Yeah.
So I think it does set up something. Something is different between
If
them.
I'm remembering correctly, at least up until this point, Mr. Reed has not lied to them.
Right, correct.
He has not lied.
Other than
Other than his wife.
he said his wife was in the other room. Yeah.
Mr. Reed has not lied.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And that is not a spoiler, but
It's not.
just you wait.
Okay.
Oh, because maybe wifey is crazy too,
But
Or is she behind the curtain that
or
we're
is she
about
dead
to
like
be-
Norman Bates and just sitting in the other room?
Oh my God.
She's there. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's crazy. It's one of those. Okay. So now we're gonna to end this real quick. We're gonna talk about the one metaphor he gave. He basically said that different versions of Monopoly represented different version of religion. So he
They're
said
all iterations.
they're all iterations of each other. So to start off, there was a game called Landlord that was made by a woman, and it wasn't popular, and it was more about collaborating together to win the game. And then Monopoly came, and that's the one that took off and is the most popular one, and that's more competitive, which is funny from
and
a
it's
man and
it's
female
basically the
perspective.
same game.
It's exactly the same game, except I mean it's copyrighted, right? They took that game, they made it their
Yeah.
own, they made it popular, and then there's other versions. And so he says like, you know, there's also Islam, and there is yours, which is another version of Christianity. They're all different versions of Monopoly.
right.
And then he says the same thing about the song that they're listening to. He's like, you don't know this song, but you know Creep, because it's just a variation of this song. And
Lana Del
Del
Rey.
Rey
yeah, also has a variation
yep.
that came out in 2017. They're,
and it's ironic because Radiohead.
yeah, they
just-
sued each
yeah.
other. And it's different times and different iterations. Because they say, are we talking about religion, games, or music? And he says, well, all three.
He says yes.
Yes.
And,
yes. Yes.
And then so he
I love that.
is talking about the OG religion, which would be Judaism.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they're like it's 0.2% of the population are Jewish and all of this stuff.
But
And
most people are Christian.
But
Yes.
because that, even though that's the oldest one, shouldn't it have the most followers? It's the original. Well, no, because they don't advertise their religion. They don't have people like Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton
Well-
coming to their door to sell them their story.
also because of the Holocaust, right? 'Cause
I
it
do
is
think that like there is definitely an element, like you definitely lost a lot of followers there.
Yeah.
That sounds so like I lost all my followers on
No, like,
Instagram. But
it
like
just was-
also there's like not Jewish missionaries that I'm aware of. I'm also
Right.
not a part of
Well,
Right,
then,
that
the
religion.
Christians also went and killed Muslims.
The
Different
Crusades,
religions.
yeah.
annihilated.
The Crusades, yeah, they went and they
fought for their religion.
right. And I learned about it in Catholic Church as a horrific thing, right? And it's like
Right.
it's awful.
Yep.
So I think they think that's interesting. So it's like Christianity is the way it is. It is the most popular because it's the most ruthless, right?
true.
It's the most. That's why I was saying like the first version was like you kind of work together, while Christianity is more like me first.
Cutthroat.
I'm gonna get to heaven first.
Much like great advertising.
Yeah,
The
Yes.
advertising business is cutthroat.
yeah. And
If
it started
you-
off with an advertisement on the back of the bench.
Exactly.
Interesting. All right, well, you're good.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna watch more. Okay. Okay, I'm just stopping real quick because I have a question for Shay.
Yo, what's
It
up?
has only been 2 minutes since we stopped recording.
You said that he has not lied to them yet, right?
He has not lied to them.
So when he said that his wife, didn't he say my wife is behind this door?
Yep.
Didn't he say my wife is behind that door? I can go get her if you want me to.
Yep.
But you know my wife's not behind that door.
Yeah.
He said that though, right?
He said, "Do do you really think my wife is behind that door?
Oh, do you really think, right? Because it's a question. But he did say she was behind that door.
Yes.
So I'm guessing she is behind that door that girl looked into.
That's a good thought.
I think they would be much more freaked out though.
I don't know.
Or she died like
Or
a
she
very,
died, or she's there, or she's in like has a like it's her. So anyway, I think that his wife is either unalive behind that door, or she did it to herself, or something is weird. Because if Shay says that he has not lied to her, he did say that. Okay. All right, we're back, and we got about 28 minutes left of the movie, so we're going to talk about what we just watched, and then we'll end the podcast with the end of the movie.
So we see Hugh Grant's character, Mr. Reed, essentially help them make the choice to go down which door or which pathway. We theorized that it could have been a wall, could have been just the same thing on the other side, and lo and behold, Lou was correct. There's 2 staircases here, and he labels the one with the green door belief, and then the purple door disbelief.
Though we do not see that it is truly stairs until they both choose to go down the belief door.
Yeah.
And that's when us as audience see with their choice where they're going.
yes.
Yes.
I also love before, like when he's telling them they need to choose between belief and disbelief, we get to see Sister Barnes's backbone more. And we also see Sister Paxton trying to appease, which I feel like is the more traditional woman role of submitting, trying to placate the abuser. Like
Right,
saying,
you're so smart.
yeah, you've brought great points to us, all of this. And she initially chooses the disbelief door. And then Sister Barnes is like, no. And she goes off on him, and she has excellent points. And she's talking about how the comparisons that he's made between the religions, how he's pointing out all of their similarities, but not pointing out the vast differences there are in everything. So it was just a really cool moment for her to be like, no. And then she asks Sister Paxton, do you still believe in God? And she says, yes. And then she says, come on, we're going to choose the door that we actually believe in.
It can almost show the like choose to believe something. And you're like, I have to stick to this no matter what, because if I'm wrong, I don't know what I'm going to do. She's a little bit stubborn about it in her way. Like, we're going to say that what we believe is true. And she's choosing that path, because she even tells the other girl to like have a backbone, speak with your mind, because we can maybe outwit him. We are smart. And so they go through another green door. They go down the stairs, and it's into this very creepy, like antechamber kind of like room underneath. The stereotypical scary ass room underneath.
I mean, it for real looks like a torture chamber.
Yeah.
Like in the
and there's
medieval
nothing
era.
down there but a chair and a table.
There's a window.
They try
like
to
at
get
the very
out.
top, and they try to get out, and a board falls off. Which
every
I'm
time
hoping,
they show something, like they showed the letter opener twice, and so we know that the girls grabbed that. They showed the matches twice, and they get some matches, and they're trying to like light a fire. And now this is the window thing fell, and she hit it. So I'm thinking that's going to come back up.
come into play.
Anyway, so they're there, and the door slowly, really creepily opens, and out walks the woman in black, but in white.
And we say
She's
walk.
like,
She
the curse
is
of La
like very
Llorona.
creepily walking.
It's
Yes.
like white veil over her face. Almost looks like a nun who's been
Yes.
like totally.
I was honestly
decrepit.
thinking
Yeah.
like Mary Magdalene, like
yes,
that type of like with the veil
Mary Magdalene.
over and that kind of thing.
So she comes out. She puts down a blueberry pie on the table.
It does
And
not
then
look
she
appetizing.
like bends over into a like face touching the ground prayer stance with her hands behind her in a praying hands. And it's like really body dysmorphing feeling, and the creaky noises of her body. You're like, this is gross.
Just her, like even her hands
dirty.
look
Yeah.
and her feet and just everything about her.
Barefoot. Yeah. So he begins to play I'm a Creep through the sound system, and then's like, she's about to eat this blueberry pie, but I've also put some
Wolfsbane and
Belladonna.
belladonna in it. So she's going to die. And then you're going to watch a miracle and she's going to come back to life. So she eats it, passes out onto the pie really creepily.
He makes them check her pulse, makes them check her breath to make sure she's dead, makes them confirm out loud.
And then you just wait. She's going to come back to life.
And then we hear the doorbell ring.
Right. And this is just a small moment of tense building where their father or their leader comes and checks on the door.
Elder.
And he then comes again a second time for a more intense moment. And he's just like, I'd be really regretting if I didn't give you this book. And he hands him the
Pamphlet. From the Book of Mormon or whatever.
And it's like that, like, oh, I thought you were going to be someone of hope. But no, these girls are by themselves.
Awesome.
Another little statement there. In the time that you really need it, does religion actually save you?
Right. Because they're going to come for us. But as they're trying to light these matches to set off a fire, all of a sudden the prophet is behind them alive and gives them a prophecy about what the afterlife is. And the guy's down there and he's like, see, I can bring it back. And she told your prophecy. And once again,
I can answer your questions about the afterlife because that's what's so scary about it. That's why we have religion, to explain and make us feel better about the afterlife.
Was, no, you did a magic trick. You made her seem like she was dead, basically, but you brought her back as an example.
But it was a near-death experience because she, when she was a kid, ate Taco Bell and died because they were doing surgery on her. Yeah, from E. coli.
I love Taco Bell.
And she was dead on the table while they were operating on her. And she had the same experience and just said her experience, which sounded just like the prophet of God or whatever of what happened. And she's like, this is not a miracle. It's a near-death experience. It's a magic trick.
And then as she was saying it, she gives a code word to the other girl to like attack because the other girl has the letter opener. And she says the word and the guy just slices her throat. And it's like this really shocking moment where like...
I was watching and then I turned to Kay and Shay. I said, what just happened?
And she's dying on the ground. The other girl's screaming and she runs up and she tries to get out and nothing's happening. He's like, don't worry. She's coming back. Just come down with me. And so we're in this room right now waiting to see if she will actually come back from the dead or not. And
see what happens
to the end of the movie.
What do you think about this particular moment? He's trying to prove their religion to them right now, essentially. He's selling this idea of, I can let you meet God.
Right.
For a moment. It can be just a quick thing. And then you come right back in order to prove their religion to them. How do you feel about this?
Well, it's like that question of like, if someone had a gun to your head, would you say you believed in Jesus?
Yeah.
Right? Which is a funny story because that whole concept was like not a true story. Did you guys know about that?
No.
Like the actual,
from Columbine?
From the Columbine, there's a girl that's believed that they went up to her and said, do you believe in Jesus? And she said, yes. And the guys unalived her. And then her mom wrote a book about it and it became a movie and it's this big movement.
I read it.
Yeah, big movement. I don't know if you missed out on it, but
I guess I did.
And so it was, people would always say like, what would you do if there was a gun to your head? And, would you say yes to Jesus? And it was that true faith test, right?
Yeah.
Well, to find out that through multiple accounts, she never said that. It was actually another girl who said it in the library, and only one person said she said it. Well, like 6 other people who were in the library knew that it was someone else who said it.
Interesting.
Right? And they didn't even unalive that girl. Right?
Wow.
And so the movement was made because the mother refused to believe. She was presented this evidence that it was not true. She refused to believe that. And then wrote this book and made this movement in Christianity. And that's what it makes me think of. All right. Are you ready?
Lou, did you have any thoughts
Lou?
about that?
We can end with your thought.
Okay.
I do want to say one thing. That
Yes,
is not about
Lou?
that. I love that we have 20 minutes of this movie left, and I feel like we've only watched 20 minutes of it.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
feel like a lot is about to happen.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a Sarah J. Maas
Get
book.
ready.
Yeah. Sarah J. Maas book. It's the last, 100 pages?
It's the last 100 pages. That
Always get you.
mess
You're
your
like,
world.
oh my gosh. Okay.
We just finished the movie.
Wow.
This is my second time. Woo,
I bet you picked
man.
up on a lot more stuff.
Yes, I did actually.
I am excited to watch it a second time.
Yeah. That's how I could say with certainty that Hugh Grant's character never lied to them. He wasn't always forward,
Yeah, because it
but
wasn't
he
his
never
wives.
lied. Well, but in theory,
Maybe because of the polygamy idea,
right.
right?
That's
brought up.
That's one thing that I picked up on the second time is like he has all these ladies. It's literally like giving polygamy once again.
Anyway, so what just happened from where we left off was the girl just got unalived, and he's like, she'll come back, and then she doesn't. So he like digs into her arm and finds her birth control, which is what kind of birth control is that?
And it's just an implant.
It's an implant in your arm that gives you birth control. And he tries to convince
The other sister, Sister Paxton.
Sister Paxton that she's like a simulation or like a robot or
She's
like,
an NPC.
That's why
NPC.
she can't come back.
Then that's why she can't come back to life. But he has underestimated Sister Paxton because she's smarter than she has been portrayed.
Which I love. So
Yes.
when Sister Barnes gets unalived, she has this moment where she runs up the stairs trying to get away, obviously, because this is terrifying. And she's sitting on the stairs and she's just saying quietly to herself while she's crying, because this is a horrifying situation, challenge him.
Yeah.
Like, have a backbone, challenge him. And you see her resolve, which I love that it was Sister Paxton, because
Yeah.
it's setting it up to be Sister Barnes.
Yeah, she's more of the malleable one, more of the one that just follows the crowd, more of that traditional
Yeah, seeming
religion.
like really bubbly
Yeah.
and airheadish and not very smart.
And she then tells him, well, I don't believe this is true. This is a form of birth control. And I also don't think that that thing was a miracle. I think you changed the bodies when we were not looking. And that the person that came back was a different woman that looked similar. And I think you are going off script right now because she said something to us that wasn't in her
script.
In her script,
Yeah.
what you told her to say. Because she said at the end, it's not real. So you can tell Hugh Grant's character is trying to keep on playing that cool, like really witty. And he's like, well, if there's a body, then there should be a way out of here. And he starts filling the walls and doing the belittling man thing.
Yes.
That like, oh, you want me to check if there's doors? Like, okay. And then she's like, well, maybe the table is now not dripping the same kind of water from the ceiling. So she moves the table and there's a door.
Also cool because on the table he had drawn a diagram to kind of explain.
With an arrow?
Yeah, it was an arrow. And when she tipped the table over,
Oh,
the
yeah.
arrow was directing
followed
down
with
to where
the camera. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So she opens up the door and he's like, well, if you want to prove my fact, there should be an unalived body down there. And so she's like, fine. And goes down the hole and finds a body and says, I knew it. And then he shuts her in.
So once she's in the hole, after she goes past the dead body, before she even went in the hole, she said the only way out is through. And so this is very much that following. And she goes through, literally through all of these locked doors and rooms that all identify with one particular religion. We start with like some runes, and this looks more, I don't know. This one
Celtic,
looks more
kind of,
Celtic. Yeah, Wicca perhaps.
Pagan-ish.
Pagan.
Then there's one that we move through that looks like, to me, it looks more Muslim, but I don't know that it's for sure. It looked like there was like,
The last one was like almost like Satanism.
yeah, the last one is like Satanism. And then that's when she finally gets to the final chamber and she finds a bunch of women being
Well,
locked.
before that, there's the door that opens up to this area has her bike lock on it. So he has taken, so earlier the girls find their coats. Well, he gives them their coats back, and just Sister Paxton has her bike key in her pocket.
And I said that was foreshadowing.
Right. And the
But
other
there's
sister
only
doesn't.
one bike key.
Right. So she pulls out her bike key and it's the right fit. And so it opens up the door and she goes into the room where there's a bunch of women in cages.
Literally in
all
cages.
the prophets.
And it's
Yes.
really cold.
Yes.
Yeah, not even cages, like laying down cages. Like,
They're pretty tight.
yeah. Like what you would see over as medieval times, and they would put the cages over the graves
Yeah,
to
yeah,
keep them from
Yeah.
rising from the dead. And she's like sympathizing with them and tries to give her her coat. And he walks in and he basically says, I've introduced you to the true religion. Do you know what it is?
And I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell can this religion be?
Yeah.
And she says, yeah, I think I know what it is. And she's setting it up. And then as she's speaking, I feel like it all clicked at the same time. And we were just like, shit, it's control.
It's control. Every religion can only exist through control.
Yep. And she was exactly where she was supposed to be because it was all controlled by Mr. Reed. They thought that he made a mistake by putting the bike key back in the wrong coat, but he did that purposefully. He wanted Sister Paxton to be able to be here in this moment because, again, he thought she was malleable and he could predict every single move she made because religion controlled her. And he saw that all throughout the night, right?
Yeah.
That's why she chose the disbelief door, because she thought that's what he wanted.
And when he said that thing about the candle too, he knew that one of them was more like maybe the idea that the flame flickered or whatever is the idea that one's more malleable. Like he could tell that he could control Paxton while he might not be.
Her energy wasn't disrupted.
But she does do something unpredictable because he, in his cocky state of winning the game, like he has won the game, he's rattled her.
She's like standing crying and he comes behind her and is just being really close.
Yeah, plays with her hair. And he says, your religion's so controlling, it even makes you wear magic underwear, which was the word for the girls to use the knife. And she juts the thing back into him and slices up in his body.
His neck. Yes.
Yeah. And then runs for it, gets upstairs, finds the room with this cool maze of the whole house, still can't find a way out, sees the Dante Inferno poster, which I was thinking the whole time as they were descending. That's how Dante's Inferno is. It's like the lower down you go, it's the different layers of hell.
Yep.
And so she, in her mind, she's thinking, well, then maybe I have to go down. So she goes back down the stairs, gets back down to the room where her friend is laying there unalive, and she considers what to do next. And the guy shows up and ends up stabbing her. And there's this moment that I found really weird where he's slowly passing away and she's, in a lot of pain. And he says, pray for us, right? This man who's made this weird game to prove that religion is all about control on his deathbed is begging for this woman to pray for him.
Mm-hmm. And then she throws it and is like, well, it doesn't work. There was a study and just going on proving that it was very conclusive in the study that people who are prayed for, they don't get any better, but it makes the person who's praying for the other person feel better because you're getting to choose something selfless and you're quote unquote doing something without doing anything.
Well, and we actually just talked about this the other day about the concept of prayer, because I've always been really, since deconstructing, I get really angry at the sense of prayer because people are like, oh, well, if I pray hard enough, this person will live. Or if I pray hard enough, God will listen to me. And I'm like, that is such a messed up concept. But me and Shay were talking the other day and she kind of brought up the idea for me that prayer works. It's the idea that when we are all connectively thinking of something, we are all, say you're a Christian and you are praying for this person to get better. It is this connectiveness that you are all using your energy towards that person. Now, I feel like we can do that. We have the power
absolutely
to send our energies to someone. But for us, it comes from us. Right? We're at the time of our lives when we're saying, I, Kay, am going to send you my energy so that you feel better or have more confidence or this person gets better. In Christianity, in Muslim, and in different religions, you are praying to a God who then will choose to do it or not. You are aligned to that.
Yeah, you're like the middleman.
You're the middleman. You are not the person that can heal, which is...
And then you can also turn it back and say, well, if the prayers didn't work, it's because you who are receiving the prayers didn't believe hard enough, right? And that is just completely, it just makes me boil, because the thought that when I'm praying or when I'm sending my energy to someone, I'm doing that because I love that person and I am choosing that. It doesn't matter what they believe.
Right.
They don't have to believe in me. They don't have to believe in whatever, but it's not their responsibility or their fault why they're healed or not healed.
Right. It's the same way we do it as a coven. Shay just left to go to a funeral, and while she was away, we sent our energy to be like, you know what, this is a hard time. We just want to uplift her. And whether she felt that or not, in a sense, that is what prayer is. We just are at a different level of understanding, and it's not the word prayer, right?
Well, I think prayer specifically, and I don't want to speak for you guys, for me, it's just a triggering word.
Yeah,
and
no,
that's
yeah.
why I don't like calling it
It's
prayer.
been triggering for me until I had this discussion with Shay the other day, and I was like, oh man, like that makes sense. Like we did things in religion, and we're not all foolish for doing these things in religion. I just think that we did it in different energies.
Yeah.
And then when you find true energy that feels right, when you're doing it for yourself, when it's this like, we are all beautiful and creative and
We're all
powerful.
connected.
We're all connected. It has a different feeling than like, oh, I need to go sit down and pray 15 times today. Because when my grandma prays for me every day and all of her grandchildren, she's doing it out of love, but she
Right.
just has a different label for it, right?
Right.
Because she calls me and says, is there anything I need to pray for you specifically? And I don't find that as like a, ew, grandma, get over yourself. It's like, it's beautiful because it's like, it is, she's in the box, she's in the bubble, but she is still sending me that love, and I feel that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so crazy when, she's talking about this and she says it's not proven. And he says, obviously pray for us. And this particular scene, especially watching it the second time, was really enlightening, mostly because he's trying to control her to the very end.
Yeah.
I believe this whole setup was an experiment for him to see how much control does religion have on these people that are going to willingly come into my house, choose to be polite instead of safety. And
Well, he's had the experiments before. Because I
Right.
believe all the ladies that are down there are similar experiences. They have committed completely. He's convinced them that he is a Messiah or something like that, right?
well, no, he is not saying that he is a Messiah. I believe that this whole experiment is exactly how the experiment has gone every single time. And the only reason they are there is because he's being truthful when he says that they chose to be there because they continuously chose to be polite, not storm out of the house, not to kill him or hurt him.
Right.
They have literally not put their hands on him. And so with that, he's used their own belief system to control them.
Yeah.
And the only reason they're still there is because they put themselves there. Just like he said with the woman who ate the poison pie, she didn't have to eat the poison
Well,
pie.
it's not like they're going back to they're going back to their cages by themselves too.
Right. Well, it's that same idea of like in Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, there is a choice, but there's not a choice.
Right.
Like, because they could have left sooner, but the door was locked. And you can eat the pie or die.
Well,
Yeah, it is the complete control. He just has complete control over them.
Yeah.
And that's what religion represents sometimes, like that absolute
Exactly.
control.
But because that's what's frustrating is because they are all there because
they
their
also
choices.
chose to be
Yeah.
a part of that religion.
Yeah.
And
if-
sometimes you can't get away from it because
Right.
it feels like that.
Well, but even just like going back to the idea too of this advertisement, like in a sense, like who likes it when Jehovah's Witness shows up to their house and is like, "Have you heard about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?"
Right.
I know I don't.
I usually don't answer the door.
Pretty annoying.
Yeah.
And so this whole idea is that he's almost taking what they're doing and turning it on its head because they are purposefully probing themselves and putting themselves into other people's lives. And they're like, okay, if you want to put yourself in my life, please do it. He's literally saying, yeah, come on in. Let's do it. Let's talk about this. And only by their training and socialization do they continue to just keep on moving. Yes, it feels like there really isn't a choice, but they could have taken different precautions
They
way
could have
sooner.
not-
They could have not lied.
Well, they could have not gone in the house without seeing his wife.
Exactly. And they chose to still walk in
Though, I don't
and
think-
just believe what he said rather than seeing it.
We both doors led to the same place. Even if they had chose the disbelief door.
Right.
It led down to the basement. So their choice there didn't actually matter.
Right.
I think, yes, at that point, like after he gives them that opportunity to choose, and he even shows, like he lets them see what the way out would be, except there is no way out. They still could have turned around. They didn't even move. Like they still stayed
Yeah.
with him. They didn't walk to the front of the house or anything. And granted, there's so many other things on top of that. Like this is still a modern movie. So like, what if he's got a gun? What if there's
Right.
Yeah.
other people in the house and now
Well,
they're
and I
waiting for
also-
us in the front, you know?
I think a lot of women who also survive things like that typically do play into the man's ego and allow and play the game
Yep.
because that's the way that they like get out of it. So I think it kind of shows that victimology too
Right.
of like
and
maybe
how many times do we watch movies where
they run away and it doesn't matter anyways.
yeah, well, no,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like when they are trying to run away and they're being combative and I will think in my head and also say out loud, just pretend and go along with it, and then you'll have another opportunity to get away.
Also, talking about how we keep on bringing this up because we brought this up in our book review, but it's much like the Salem trials. The idea that it's like you just go with it because that's how you survive. And one of them did survive, right?
And okay, we
who
also
knows if they had turned around to the door if he just was like, well, this experiment's over. I'm just going to kill them both because he planned on kind of killing them both anyways,
Yeah.
right?
And also
the
we
longer
think
they
about-
play, the longer they live.
we think about Blink Twice when
When they're dancing with the guys.
yes, and they're having to pretend to be fine.
Yeah.
But I also agree they had a choice. It's just like a weird like it's weird. It's religion. It's messy. It's confusing. It's do you have a way out? I think you do, but do you? Could you actually? Maybe. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
No,
so-
it reminds me a lot of generational trauma. It reminds me how things that we're born into, especially like religion, but even alcoholism, even abuse, all of those things are things that we just continue to just move on and on and on. And we can look from the outside and think it's so easy to give up, but really is it?
No, I think
mean-
it takes generations sometimes to get past something.
Exactly. And so I even think about our own journey in deconstructing Christianity for us and how long it's taken us to even just begin to do
Right.
that. And yeah, I think this is an interesting painting of how deconstruction can look, but also how staying true to what you believe can also work, which begs the question, do you think that she still believed in the end?
Right. And talking about the end, we have him crying and he's about to stab her. And all of a sudden, what I believed very unalive other girl hits him in the head with the board that they saved and that she hid and truly passes away. So I don't know if it's like that weird thing, right? Because it's been a long time since
I want to believe that that was the miracle because it pans over to him and you kind of see I was interpreting it as like a shocked look and he thought she was dead and he constantly was talking about she's going to come back, she's going to come back, she's going to come back. And then he's like, oh, well, so she's not coming back. But then she came back.
Yeah. It was one of those moments like it leaves you with that question without answering it, which is really fun. And then you do know that she passes away completely the second time. And so the girl gets out and as she's standing there in this beautiful snow-covered field, I thought that shot was
Beautiful.
immaculate. Earlier in the movie, she said, if I ever die, Sister Paxton, the girl in the pink, if I ever died, I would want to come back as a butterfly and land on somebody's hand just to let them know that I was there, that was me. And she's sitting there in the field and a butterfly is on her bloody hand, which I feel like is the other girl coming back.
Okay, but
That's what I
and-
interpret it as.
And it blinks away.
Yes,
Like it
like it
actually didn't
disappears.
exist.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So
yeah.
was it real?
So was it real?
Was it not real? Also,
was it
her
the
hands,
fantasy?
Yeah, her hands looked so janky in that last shot. Did you
Well,
guys notice
also
that?
maybe the other thing that could be a little bit more trippy is that maybe she didn't survive. And the butterfly is like what she's taking
that-
form up.
Is she going into the light?
Right? Like she didn't survive. And
The
now
way that the
she's
dawn is
butterfly.
rising like that, it could be that she is actually going into the light or
I
yeah.
don't know. It's like because like it could be symbolizing her friend because she heard that story. So she came back like, you told me this and I'm going to show you
Yep.
this. Or it's that she sees it and then it blips out and it's like, that's her becoming the butterfly. Yeah, he does say, I remember now he says to the girls, is it a man dreaming about a butterfly, or is it a butterfly dreaming about a man? That kind of idea of reincarnation. And it's like, who came first? So in the end, I think it's a really interesting callback to all three of those. It's like they kind of leave the interpretation up. Also call out to who are these directors, because they are freaking amazing. It brought back classic smart horror for me. There is a lot of horror that's just on the nose. You know exactly what's going to happen. This
Predictable horror.
Yes, this was like The Shining. It feels like Blink Twice, like another one of those really smart thrillers where you're guessing the whole time, you're picking up on details. I love that horror, and it hasn't been around much, and it's starting to come back, and I'm really excited if that's
absolutely.
the new wave.
Yeah, so the studio is Beck Woods. So Scott Beck and Brian Woods. They're both the writers and directors
Is this
for
their
this
debut?
film. That's a great question.
Are we
Let's
just
see.
watching all these
I know, right?
directors' debuts and being like, this slaps? This is so good. I really enjoyed that, Shay. Thank you for making us watch it.
I thought that you guys would like it. I have one more question for you. Is the one true religion control?
Yes.
I think there is an aspect of that is very, very true. I think religions are controlled by control. Just like I think people can be very controllable. If we look at history, it's very evident that we like to be controlled. And I think it's the comfortable thing to be controlled and told what to do and what bubble to fit into and the do's and don'ts. I think we are finding a way out of that. And I don't believe we're in a religion, but I think we're in a spiritual place. So maybe religion is control, but spirituality is not.
What are your thoughts, Lou?
I said yes immediately. But I mean, okay, so when I think about religions and going back to ancient Egypt, to the Mayans, Aztec, all of this, and again, I'm not an expert, I don't know everything there is to know. And then I also think about Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, everything. And why do we have these religions? It's a region, a people group, or whatever, a community that is trying to explain their origins, trying to explain things that are happening to them, things are scary. It's scary when it's dark outside, trying to just find the purpose, the reason. Why are we even here? And I think that's the base of why we have a lot of religions, to explain things. But then we have people who, I mean, people are just messed up. We're corrupt, we are selfish, we are evil, and then whoever's in power uses that religion to make these rules and start to control us. And
Yeah, that's something that religions always do. And the way that they control us is always through that fear, right?
Well, I also think why church and state were together throughout most of history is because religion is controlling, right? The fear that you put into people about not going to heaven or hell can control people to do what you want in the culture, in the time, what you want to mold your people to be good citizens, to do what you want them to do, right?
And
it's all about control, and it's all about fear.
And it's good citizens, quote unquote, to whoever the person in power is. So when we think of Judaism and thinking of Jesus and Christianity and all of that, I think it's laughable that modern day Christians are reading the Bible, doing all these stories and everything, but we can't see that they are the modern day Pharisees and Sadducees, because we're making all of these rules. We're saying you have to do all of these things and you have to do X, Y, and Z to go to heaven and be a part of our club, blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly what they were doing back then. And Jesus came to abolish that.
So when I think about this whole idea of any sort of religious movement happening, I think of it during a very specific point in time. So if we're thinking about the Puritan movement, Catholicism, all of the above, all of these things were happening during these very, very specific points in history. And even with Jesus, that was the turn of the century. All that to say, I think about the Puritans leaving England. That was a huge part of trying to just create something new, and we get those other iterations of the same thing, right?
Well, and you see how the church also controls that. So like the Pharisees controlled Pilate during the crucifixion storyline. And like, if we want to think about even the Salem witch trials, like religious people told who should die, right? Like they had a strong voice. In the Catholic, it was a big one. I mean, they controlled all of government.
Yep.
Like history just repeats itself.
Oh, always.
Iterations.
Yeah.
It's all a monopoly.
Iterations. Yeah. Great.
Also, too, when I do think of witchcraft and being a witch, I do still think that in a sense, we are controlling what we feel we need to control. We are creating charms or spells and that sort of thing. I honestly think that like we do it intentionally, not because we don't have the power. I absolutely believe that we do have the power. And we're doing it in a way that feels authentic to us, but that's still control. That's still this idea of like we're doing it within our own space and within our own energy, which again, I don't know, this whole belief system.
Yeah, the only way I would say that it's different is I don't feel like I'm a part of a society that I have to do a certain way to be accepted. I think we are entering maybe into a different kind of control, that we are breaking away from someone telling us what to do and kind of finding our own vibe. But at the beginning of witchcraft, you kind of have to lean on people who know things. Yeah. And I think as we grow, as this more enlightened self that we all are choosing, that things will change. And I think that'll be a really interesting thing to come back to talk about.
Yeah. And I think it's what I love that we're able to have this conversation together, but then also for our listeners. But I think this is a great check for if we ever get down the road and we can come back and just stop ourselves and be like, are we being controlled?
Yeah.
Are we trying to control other people? Are we trying to convert whatever? And just pause and figure out what our intentions, our end goal, if we have an agenda, whatever. Because I think that's when
you run into the problems.
Yes.
Yep. That's when
because
religion turns from something that we just believe in into something that does control us or control others.
And that has an agenda.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think this movie is like what could happen for someone who deconstructs to the extreme.
Yeah.
Right? Because he talks about how he's done all the religions and they've all let him down. And until he understood that it was all about control, and he kind of took a dark road. It's kind of like baneful magic and stuff, like where you can like just take something that maybe is about rebirthing yourself and the beauty of witchcraft and charms and all that stuff to something that could be harmful to others. Like that's a choice, and where that leads you, I feel like sometimes that is more controlling, right? When you get connected to that kind of stuff.
Not a want.
Yeah. So, we are so happy you watched this. Hopefully you watch this movie and then listen to this podcast. If not, and you're curious, go watch the movie.
We didn't give away any spoilers at all.
Yeah, nothing. They all live and there's butterflies. So we are probably going to leave our tarot pool in the comments again, just because this episode's a little long, but we'll be pulling them for this episode and you can read what we pulled for it.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to check us out on all our platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and we're going to go ahead and close up our sacred circle. Thank you, fire. Thank you, air. Thank you, water. And thank you, earth.
The light in me sees the light in you.
Love
Bye,
you, witches.
Bye. Bye. Hey, everybody. This is Hex and Chill, your
daily forecast.
I went into my Delilah voice.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Us, Hex and Chill.
Hey, witchlings. Welcome back to Hex and Chill.
I love some waxing. Okay. Holy monkeys.